Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here, and today I thought I would like to do a program for those of you who are new to bonsai. Specifically, if you're really new to bonsai. Say you just went to the computer and started searching how to bonsai. That can be really overwhelming. First, welcome to bonsai. Second, when I did that a couple of years ago, it was because I had been away from bonsai trees, a hobby that I had had as a teenager, and then I circled back to it many years later, and the first thing I discovered is, golly, there are a ton of videos. As I recall, I typed in wisteria bonsai, and the next thing you knew, I fell down a rabbit hole, and when the sun came up, I was probably on my 50th bonsai video. So that can be a little overwhelming, but there's only a few things out of all the information out there. We're very fortunate that we do in this time, in this world, have access to the world of bonsai at our very fingertips, but it can also be intimidating. So rather than say, do this, do that, do this, do that, times 1,000 different things, just a couple of quick steps to get you started. One, if you haven't gotten started yet, decide if you want an inside tree or an outside tree. And there is a difference. Inside trees will be primarily tropicals or semi-tropicals. Outside trees will be everything else. And no, you can't bring your inside tree for the first 2 weeks until you decide what to do with it. That will cause great hardship to your tree. It needs to go outside as soon as possible, weather permitting. Now, that's another thing. If you're going with an outside tree, take consideration into what does grow in your area. Maybe what you see in everyday life growing and thriving in the environment around you, be it in your neighborhood or at a red light. So that will be some benefit, but don't rely on that entirely. A tree in a small pot will react and respond differently to the same stimuli than the same tree in the ground. It's different when it's in a pot. If you look at a tree in a pot and you say, well, it's this hot, that tree's okay, this tree's okay, you could be wrong. If you look at your tree in a pot and say, that tree in the ground is okay with this cold, my tree in this pot should be that cold, that might not be correct. The same with, the tree just in the background, the pine tree in the background hasn't been watered by nature in now 3 weeks. If I wouldn't have watered these guys in a third of that, I'd be already dropping trees. So just be aware that just because something reacts one way in its natural setting, what we do causes everything to be a little different, and there are a lot of things to learn. But your first week, there's only a few things to learn. Try to learn those really well, and then you can learn there is time to learn the other things as you go. So if you've decided whether or not you want an inside bonsai tree or an outside bonsai tree, then the next thing to decide is what type of tree you would like. Think about what you saw around you at different times and parts of your life, or just what appeals to you. Look at a broad spectrum of things. And then if you live in an apartment like I do, you might very well decide that you don't have the space for an outside tree. Do you have a window that faces the light? We're lucky. In this day and age, if you don't have a window that can actually sustain a living, sun-hungry tree, it is possible to buy a light that will. Now, I don't see that as a reason why an outdoor tree can be an indoor tree, but I do see that as a reason why an outdoor tree can be possibly brought in long enough to survive an incredibly hostile winter, for instance. Or your indoor trees, if they're tropicals, they may be used to a lot of light. And if you don't have an adequate window, there is help on the way. Currently, I am under a ceiling on my balcony, and in late fall, which this is, the light penetrates really deep, but that's late fall light, and it's more orangey in color because the sun's a little farther, basically a little farther away. I don't know how accurate that is, but the point being, the light that reaches inside here is probably not adequate. The light that reaches in this as far as I am. But what I have overhead is I have two 750 watt grow lights. That's 1500 watts of grow light. That's basically like an LED equivalent to a 1500 watt blow dryer on for the lighting photo period of our day, which is kind of entering a winter spectrum. So that's more or less 8 hours. It's on a timer. So that's one way that I've adapted to give my trees, my outside trees, more light. This could also just as easily be adapted for an indoor trees if you had tropicals or semi-tropicals and you weren't happy with the amount of light they were getting. Also, depending on how much light they're not getting from your windows, you don't have to go necessarily all gung-ho with a couple of full spectrum 750 watt LEDs. I have these cypress trees next to me, and I have my oak trees behind me, and I have some Japanese black pines, and I wanted options. So in your first week, you've decided probably whether or not you would like to be into indoor bonsai or outdoor bonsai. You've also decided, you probably started looking around at the trees and maybe made a few ideas about what kind of tree you would like. Good. Now from there, learn about how much water it's going to need, how much water it's not going to need, like how much time you need to let it dry out in between waterings, and make sure you do that. If it's a smaller bonsai, you need to check it multiple times a day. If it's a larger bonsai, then just go by the size of the tree, the type of the tree, and how often those requirements need to be met. Do not wait to do that in your first week of bonsai. Do not let something sit in your house and admire it because you can't wait. You just want, I get it, but still, it needs to be out and close to what is going to be its environment. You will probably need to give it some time to acclimate it, which means maybe not full sun or something, if that's something that you have as an option until later. But so the main things are on your first week: worry about how much light you have, worry about how much water you have, worry about when the last time it was fed and when it needs to be fed again. If you take care of the light, the water, and the feeding, the only other thing left to worry about is preventative maintenance. Making sure that if your area is good for powdery mildews or whiteflies or spider mites or this or that you've got some treatments in hand. Don't wait to learn this. I learned this the hard way. My we'll learn as we go idea meant that when I started treating one thing, I didn't see that I already had it on the others, and some preventative maintenance in that. In my case, adding something to my water to make sure that the plants made their own bug-proof antidotes would have been very helpful. So don't wait to learn about that. When it comes to the wiring, when it comes to the pruning, when it comes to all that other stuff that you start watching and your mind just kind of goes blank because there's a reason for that. You're overloaded. Don't worry about that. Worry about keeping the tree green if it's supposed to be green, and worry about if it's supposed to be fall and it's not fall, or basically worry about your basics: water, light, nutrients, preventative medicine. And that is basically what I would tell you to focus on if you were just introduced yourself to bonsai. Welcome to bonsai. This is a very, very rewarding hobby. Both are, yeah, could be both. But then too, it has been very, very rewarding, and Frida and I look forward to going with you down your bonsai path as we collect and increase our bonsai tree collection and knowledge together. So thanks for watching, like and subscribe. And this is our post Thanksgiving show. That's I guess I'm going to time this thing as being the day before Thanksgiving 2021. Happy holidays, everybody. And I will see y'all on our Friday drop. Those of us who have recovered from our families and overeating and the like. So yeah.